through case studies. In this session, we'll try that the practitioners would be sharing experiences of their classrooms and how they've dealt with the challenges that they face, especially in a setup which is essentially interdisciplinary. And since all of the panel speakers are basically from Ambedkar University, Delhi, it makes it all the more relevant. The first session is, the discussion for the first session is going to be Professor Dennis Layton, who's a visiting professor and the Dean of School of Liberal Studies. And the other two speakers are going to be Mr. Vinod R., Assistant Professor, School of Human Studies, Ambedkar University, Delhi, and Dr. Suresh Babu, Assistant Professor from School of Human Ecology. So without further ado, I guess we can get started.
Mr. Vinod from School of Human Studies of Ambedkar University, Delhi, and Dr. Suresh Babu from the School of Human Ecology, who will tell us something about challenges in, through, about, with interdisciplinary teaching and learning through case studies. And since this session is supposed to run until noon and it's about 10:20 by my watch, we'll give Vinod and Suresh, say, half an hour each, and if you'd like to take more, just let me know, and we'll try to manage a discussion response to your presentations after that. So maybe we can begin with Vinod. Okay, thank you,
Vinod. Thanks for the invite. I agreed to come to share the ideas around interdisciplinarity because I thought this would be one space which will allow me to be a little more expansive as a teacher, and that I could also share with the students the kind of struggles that I have vis-a-vis the classroom. I have really not sort of made sense of this word case study and therefore then the word resolution to the end of it. So let me first begin with this whole idea as to when I got the call, what is this call about, and who gave the call, what is this space calling from, and who is wanting to hear about this. So I think that is how I would like to begin my presentation. So what was the voice to understand interdisciplinarity called from the margins? Was it called from the intersection, or was it called from the shadows of any one discipline, like where you're not heard and here you have a group of people with whom you can hear and share, and so I think it is to that call that I'm trying to respond. So it's not so organized in that manner. So my first question that I would like to sort of make sense of is, where does interdisciplinarity lie? What is this interdisciplinarity, and where do I think it sort of lies? And through my years of about 14 years of teaching in various institutions, these are some questions that I stay with. Is it in the mind of the teacher that there is this integration? Or is it in the pedagogy of how we transact it? Or do we live and survive this interdisciplinarity in our being that we do not get to translate, that we are not able to translate in our subjective thing? So then the question is, where do you locate it? Do we locate this interdisciplinarity in the agency of the teacher? Or do we locate this interdisciplinarity in the way students receive, and I am responding to what the students should be at the end of the program? Is it located in the vision of transformation that I'm trying to make sense of? Is it in my seesaw of desires? Is it in my fluctuating from one end to the other end? Or is interdisciplinarity merely a balancing act to make sense of the world? Yeah? So how can we make sense of this interdisciplinarity? I think my sense to this, as I'm sort of sitting here and sharing with this group, is I would want to see what is it in the identity of the teacher that is continuously in crisis, which is seeking a commitment. So I'm wanting to look at interdisciplinarity as teachers who's having a certain sense of identity exploration where there is a crisis seeking for a commitment. That is my first submission. And I would like to see whether it is a crisis, whether it's a privilege, whether it's an add-on subsequently. That's my first thought. So what is the beauty of this journey as being a teacher in interdisciplinarity is that it remains in the unrest. Okay, I come from a School of Human Science, Human Studies background. So my my layering, my language, my context will not sound ecology-like. Yeah? So please pardon me on that. So it remains for the teacher to either adapt or to adopt. And there is this internal voice that he keeps making sense of all the time to reach a balance between theory, experience, and practice. So this is the beauty of the journey. Now, when I say beauty of the journey, it is a journey nevertheless, and pedagogy to me is also a struggle. And when we talk interdisciplinarity, then we're also trying to make this about what is this experience and significance of twos in life, okay? What does two do to us? What is the journey between the two? What is the subject? What is the subjecthood of duality? You know, what does it do when I move from education to psychology, or from psychology to education, or from psychology to science, and then try to set it up in some space there? No? So is it a parallel? Is it enriching? Or is it a kind of void search where I'm finding it very difficult to arrive as I'm trying to make sense of this? Or am I, as I wanted to present it, am I a mixed up chameleon, you know? Where I would like to use the strength of one here and go to the other discipline and say, look, you know, can you not make sense of this? Or I go to the other discipline and say, do you guys not make sense of this? And it is in this journey, what am I? Am I different parts that I'm acquiring? Because I have not been heard in the discipline. So my first attempt is just to understand the word interdisciplinarity is by saying that what does the discipline confine in me that I am not able to speak that experience within my discipline, for which I have to acquire a new language to speak something that my discipline is not giving me. So that is my first submission to this group, as to, is the journey to the interdisciplinary, is it the voice of the oppressed within the discipline that could not be disciplined? And therefore I reach interdisciplinary, okay? So that's my thought. So is this intersection, then is it illuminating, enriching, as many learned audience would often go on? But I would like to also speak about the disintegrating part of it, you know? So it is interesting that all my life I tried to make my journey, which I will talk about as to where I began and where I'm here now. And when you reach Ambedkar University, it is already there. Interdisciplinary है भाई, आपको पढ़ाना है. मेरी जिंदगी भर का स्ट्रगल है ये एक डिसिप्लिन में थके हारे पीटे, और you know, feeling oppressed. You think you're making a point, but your teachers won't hear. So you try to take another discipline, try to make sense of that. You do your research and you think you are the marginal, you are not accepted. It's a whole struggle. Now what happens when you are suddenly put in a liberal space and said, this whole university is interdisciplinary, so be it. So what is your journey about? What happens to your journey to arrive at the interdisciplinarity? Is it lost in Ambedkar University? Is one question. And the second question that I would want to ask is, what would be the experience of those teachers who are cued in from very exclusive disciplinary background? उनका क्या experience होगा? जैसे मैं रो रहा था वहाँ पे, very tight boundaries में, I was struggling to articulate what I want to do, how I want to work within very rigid boundaries of the discipline, and I reach a space of interdisciplinarity. And here I am sitting here and trying to make sense of interdisciplinarity and wondering if a colleague comes with a very straitjacket formulation and experience within one single discipline, what will be his experience of it is something worth thinking about. So for me, this pedagogy of education or the pedagogy of interdisciplinarity vis-a-vis education and psychology, in the conscious, it seems to be this moral agenda, rational transformation, space for social transformation and all that. But in the unconscious, it is actually a vacillation between marginalization and trying to make a meaningful sense of what I'm doing as I'm doing. So it's sort of it is in this unconscious that I am trying to make sense of. So what I'm saying here is that, is this experience of sharing about interdisciplinarity about richness, or is it about a sense of poverty within? That is how I would want to make sense of what interdisciplinarity is about. So I'm then going to compare now pedagogy to a certain set of assumptions. and that is it the love of the other in the image of the new? Is interdisciplinarity your second love? No? And then you're trying to say into the system, look, I'm unique because the fact that I'm able to make sense of this discipline through another discipline. So is it something about that? Or is it metamorphosis? Is it really something changing? Is it something within the construct which is changing, whose boundaries are expanding, as Thomas Kuhn would put it? Or is it very Kafka sense, is it really a larva turning to a butterfly? So that's the thing. Or the third submission that I want to make sense of it is it passion? Is it greed? Or is it envy? So the question is, can we invite, is it a new invitation for a dialogue within the disciplinary foundation? Is it something within that? Yeah, that's my sense that I want to make of this. So then, anyway, thanks for the invite. And the reason why I want to thank you later and rather than the protocol is because I think I'm never understood, and I sincerely feel I will never be understood. And somehow this whole thing about interdisciplinarity is also like a protean man, okay? Is somebody who acquires the shape to try to make sense of a survival within the academic community and so on and so forth. So I would like to stay close to my journey as a student, and how I am here as a teacher trying to share what I'm trying to share, okay? So I began my journey in a school in Tamil Nadu and tried to continue till 12th there, but I think the major sense of interdisciplinarity journey begins in my experience of my undergrad, which I had done in physics, chemistry, maths, and education. So basically I did a 4-year regional, 4-year program, bachelor program, which is called BSc Ed, and the word SE and Ed is science and education. So it is there that my sense of interdisciplinarity came through. And from Mysore to trying to seek to understand that I wanted to know who were these teachers who were writing textbooks for my students and making their life miserable. And I thought that, I was told and I understand that 60% of experts live in Delhi. And that's how it's my journey from Mysore to Delhi to pursue a course in education, master's in education. So I did my master's there in Central Institute of Education and also my MPhil there and tried to make sense of what education is. So I've taught in that institution for 4 years, various subjects, and I still found that education still seemed to have this kind of a moral agenda on everything, and any quick social problem, the immediate panacea seems to be just give them school, just give them education and it will be solved. Whereas I thought that this was a height of narrowed way of thinking about it, and teachers are extremely such beings who are not very self-reflexive about the gap between what they're living and theorizing and what they're practicing. I could really see a lot of gap. बहुत बड़ा भी होता था, बहुत inspiring teachers भी थे, पर ये भी था. So it is to seek this that I went to the psychology, and I chose, and that time I did my MA there, just precisely to understand how do you live with your contradictions, and how do you have your language of contradictions and keep it alive to make sense of what you're doing, rather than denying the contradictions, rather than denying your negative, rather than denying your struggle. Yeah. So that's how I went to psychology, and the frame that appealed to me was psychoanalytic frame, and that's how I did my MA there. And this is my journey. So then I taught in LSR for 4 years. I taught BA-led and BA programs. And then I'm here in AUD in trying to setting up this MA program called Psychosocial Clinical. I had presumed that I thought it is important for me to share the journey as a student to that of becoming a teacher. So for me, the interdisciplinarity is in searching and seeking the question that I was trying to make sense of. For me, interdisciplinarity was not about putting two things together because I think something great would come. So for me, it is a journey of my struggle of not being understood within the discipline, not being able to make sense of. So that's the first thought that I thought I should share with all of you. So for me, the journey of interdisciplinarity is the journey of self. It is a journey of unrest. It is a journey of inquiry for me. It is a journey of I have achieved something because I seem to go. And it's also a deep sense of failure, yeah, because of being rejected in all the disciplines that you travel. So when you travel from one discipline to the other, you become very marginal in your own discipline because you do not follow those disciplines. When you acquire a new language, you are like an outsider. So what I'm saying is, it's like a refugee who is gone out on a journey, and therefore when on a journey as a teacher, you pick up the best experiences, and you're able to make some great sense vis-a-vis your students, but when you go back home, you're like an outcast, okay? So that's my experience of teaching in this, yeah? So, yeah. So for me, if this is the vision that I share and I struggle, and therefore, so for me, interdisciplinarity is a struggle, okay? Where what is very important is who quit teaching, you know, and who are the faculty members who might have joined AUD and who also quit AUD because of this kind of interdisciplinary matrix or any other matrix. So those narratives are extremely important for me, and that is how I connect to whatever is marginalized. I heard the word marginalized in ecology. I thought there is a marginalization of teachers that are there who are also within the interdisciplinary frame, because not all people will have the capital to go through this interdisciplinary journey and survive it, because it's a long journey, and I'm aware that I'm privileged of this long journey to even speak like this at length. But for a student who has very little resources, for him that interdisciplinary journey is very difficult and tough. Okay, so that is where I am sort of wanting to come from. So I think it is very important to record this journey of the teacher to teach, and yeah, this struggle. Yeah. The second point that I think which is important and is what is it in the nature of the discipline, you know, that invites the interdisciplinarity. I had a discipline called education, right? So which allowed for anybody and everybody to come and say, we know what education is about. So what is it in the nature of the discipline that allows all of us to come and take pot shots at the discipline? Whereas if you say sociology or history or philosophy or whatever, there will be very tight vanguards to that tradition, even anthropology. And nobody can just come and say, well, I understand what anthropology is. Nobody can dare it. But a lot of us would take pot shots at what is education, what is good education, what is valuable education. एक तो teacher, दूसरा education pursue करता हुआ, दूसरा dignity की खत्म है. Teacher वैसे कुछ पढ़ाते नहीं हैं, teacher कुछ करते नहीं हैं. ऐसा लगता है कि ये सारा सवाल का बोझ हमें लेके उसको समझना पड़ेगा. You know, that is something which is constantly being told, you know. How are you productive? What are you productive about? So the interdisciplinarity is about what is this nature of very authentic experience that you're having. Will it be registered in any of these? So that is one difficulty. So what is it in the nature of the episteme that allows for certain interdisciplinarity to happen? You know, I have tried to make sense of psychoanalysis and statistics and try to discuss pain through statistics. How is pain registered through statistics? So certain categories can come together. Certain categories cannot come together. And you all sitting here will have a unique combination of what you would want to mix to basically say what you want to say. And it is there, I think, is the site of interdisciplinarity for me. And I'm sure all of us are, in that sense, interdisciplinary being. So is there something about the theory that is interdisciplinary, or is it something about the practice, or is it something about the theory and practice that allows you to expand, question the limits of the discipline? So that is one thing I have to say. So what is it about the nature of knowledge within each discipline that allows for this dialogue? And within this psychology that is mainstream, so after my MPhil, I went to do my MA program, and when I was sitting in the classroom, I would always have this sense of the kind of psychology that is being taught and the kind of teachers who were teaching it. And many of them were more like bill and bell type. They waited for the bill and they went for the bell. So very few inspiring people, very few people who really wanted a very authentic record of what psychology actually does. So they will say, आप अपना practical file लिख के लाओ जिसमें 5 successful stories होना चाहिए आपकी patients के साथ या. So they would never listen to, sir, ये काम नहीं हो रहा है, ये theory मेरे को समझ नहीं आ रही है, ये theory complete नहीं है. So I could not find these, this is my experience in the MA, right? So Only with some teachers I was able to articulate this failure of the theory, this failure of the practice. It is in that helped me rescue something for me as a teacher to go on to understand and explore the interdisciplinary. So I would like to really say what are the roles of different mentors in helping me imagine and wonder about what I'm learning, rather than just receive and try to continuously make sense of this I have to learn and I'm here. No? So I just want to talk. There's something about the wonder of any discipline that we are part of, and if we're able to relate to that somehow, then I think we can survive. Okay, so the psychology by and large was about attending to capitalist discourse. And psychology mental health regime was by and large to say burnout hoga, stress hoga, लेकिन हम आपको rational irrational belief को rational करेंगे, लेकिन सब दवाई देके आपको ठीक करेंगे कि ताकि आप और काम करते रहें. So for me, the whole of psychology was just treating capitalistic wounds, capitalistic injuries. There was nothing beyond a point for me. This is the way how I received psychology, okay? So therefore for me, psychoanalysis helped me understand more about the individual and the group. So what I'm saying is within the discipline, there are many other contesting disciplines which are weighing for attention. It is this tension from the marginal discourse. So psychoanalysis is a marginal discourse in India vis-a-vis psychology. So in trying to bring this margin to the center, and if you're the newcomer, or if you're one of those few people who is trying this combination for the first time, it's a lot tough. It seems as though कि आपके ऊपर roller चल गया हो, as though you can't speak about the new language. So if the tradition is already set, then working under that rubric seems a little easy. But when you are as a teacher trying to set it up in the institution, trying to fight out these usual contours of power and politics, the experience is far more tougher. That's my experience, and that's what I should say. So for me, therefore, the interdisciplinarity and the imagination of interdisciplinarity of the privileged, that may be the student, that may be the teacher, and the imagination of interdisciplinarity of poor, of a student who is poor, who is trying to make his first generation, trying to make sense of some epistemology and axiology and all of that for the first time, is two different ball game. It's two different experience. I wish we could have some discussion, something around that. Yeah. So yeah. So what is the classroom experience? Yeah. So I would like to say. So I'm in the School of Human Studies, and I've gone to teach in School of Education. I've also tried to teach because of my background there. So classroom में होता क्या है? Classroom में ये होता है कि सबसे ज़्यादा experience पहले तो setting it up, defending your case in the board of studies, defending within your own colleagues, and the violence that your colleagues can set on you. Yeah, we don't think it is relevant. We don't think it is this. We don't think it is that. There are many things. You're all sitting in this room, so you all know that. So पहली चीज़ तो setting it up and getting it, and somehow trying to launch the course on, trying to get the course on board, has its own individual struggle. So that is one which I want to share. And I'm very thankful for our university, because it encourages, it allows for, and I have done I think 7-8 revisions of my course before it actually found some expression. So that is that. So one is that. Second is rejection by students. Yeah. सर इसकी फ़ायदा क्या है, हम कहाँ जाएंगे, हमारे पता नहीं हमारे फ्यूचर का क्या है, हम पता नहीं कहाँ से आ रहे हैं, तो थोड़ी बहुत बड़ा दिक्कत है. But I try to say, and I try to tell, so therefore my courses that I teach right now in the School of Education is, one is psychosocial experience of educational failure. How do you survive failure and survive the system? That's my one course that I teach. The second course is experiencing education that I teach, is how do you experience this very experience of education? And the third course is, the course in psychology that I teach is listening, communicating, and relating. So what is it about listening that we're not able to listen more deeply? One other course is something called Life at the Margins, which I was teaching at some point of time. Now renegated it to somebody else. So for me, it is a pragmatic non-relevance, and the market value of what this integration is something is something which is continuously challenged as a teacher. So you're listening, so what is happening to me in the School of Education Studies is, I get to listen to the pain, okay? And I also get to listen to the frustrations of all the disciplinary expectations of other subjects. All of it come into this one classroom called experiencing education. Sir, हमारे साथ बुरा हो रहा है, dissertation में हमारा ये हो रहा है, deadlines हम meet नहीं कर पा रहे हैं, हम बहुत देर तक चीज़ें procrastinate करते हैं, हमें समझ नहीं आता कि last में हम करेंगे क्या, सोने के अंडे निकलेगा कि normal अंडा निकलेगा, परेशान हूँ मैं, I'm fed up with all this. It seems like the whole chaos and the noise will come to this interdisciplinary space through its own language. It's very interesting. Many things come in that classroom. अब interdisciplinary के नाम पे कुछ भी आप बोलो, मैं हूँ, मैं सुनूंगा, क्योंकि I'm used to in two registers. I would not say to theoretically how the hell you ask this question. No, because it's Abel mujhe mar, because it's that intersection. It is that intersection. No, please understand, because you set up the course because of certain imagination, and I would like to. This is what I would want to say. So that is one thing. Second is that there is also this imagination of the other colleagues vis-a-vis you. Oh, ये तो experience है, ये तो easy होगा. So you have to justify your interdisciplinarity all the time, as though disciplinarity need not be justified any time, because they have a history, they have a great resource, and it's like so. Setting it up here then therefore becomes a little difficult. So what is this new psychic space that allows for is, and what needs to be done in that sense is that there's no space where we're really talking about faculty development. ये फैकल्टी कैसे पढ़ाएगा, कैसे ये इंटरसेक्शन में क्या एनर्जीज होगा, उसका रिसर्च जो है, जो थोड़ा सा हाउ विल वी एनेबल, बिकॉज ही इज अ डिफरेंट काइंड ऑफ अ सब्जेक्ट. He is not like the conventional subject trying to talk. He is trying to talk across various intersections of things. So how do we make sense of it? And and it is very difficult because students, until they see some bright future, the word is a bright future. Otherwise, wherever they feel, in their system they feel very suffocated, in their own theorization they feel very suffocated, they will not think that that is a very relevant discourse that is worth also pursuing. They would really want something which would also rescue. So there is that thing. So student feedback appraisal. This is something which is again very important. How the feedback appraisal is being done and what happens to the feedback, and does anything really come through the feedback? And so therefore the experience seems in the being of a teacher as a protest. It seems very marginalizing. It seems as though it is trying to resist some kind of a domination or oppression. It is almost like as though you are teaching to transgress not only boundaries, but also set up a social vision that you think is relevant and meaningful in your frame. It is a large vision. It do not have great promises. At least for me, it does not have. It's very small. It's just being there. It's just listening to the student over a long time, or trying to make sense of things and hoping that the beauty will or the struggle, hoping that this struggle will stay in the imagination far. It is not so tangible. It's not so concrete. It does not give anything, but it is just trying to sustain your passion and sustain your struggles through this experience, and trying to hope that if I am able to give the weakest student of my class an experience of able to feel real about his experience, I feel the job of interdisciplinarity is done. I cannot sort of sustain it from one discipline, so I take two disciplines to make sense of that. So I don't know if I have some time. So if I want to say something. Yeah, okay. All right, now if it has to be theoretically made relevant, okay, yeah, things like that, you feel, why am I speaking just personal? So there are a lot of people whom you can use. Few people you can make sense of is this Bernstein. This guy talks about framing of knowledge, and if we have a very tight framing, you can't enter that into an interdisciplinary question. But if the question is a little diffuse, it is a little more broad-based, then a lot of people can come and have a conversation. That's that. And there is also something about, Marx and Helix have spoke about foundations of disciplines and spoke about what is the causal effect, how is cause and effect understood in each discipline. Like in science you have a linearity, you have a circularity. In social science you may have multiple truths contesting to make sense of reality. So what is this notion of cause and effect, and how is this circularity and linearity and, you know, the horizontal cut of the paradigm or the vertical cut of the paradigm, how does that then allow for any dialogue to take place? So that is the second idea that we can sort of make sense of. The third is, how are we trying to assimilate this new experience, and what is changing in us as we are trying to be interdisciplinary? So look, it's a lot of struggle, and as a teacher, I love this journey because you're not so caught up with the destination, you are more struggling with the journey. So you will pick what you like, but believe me, your sense of pain and normalcy will be redefined, and it will have a very different sense of pain. You will have a very different sense of normalcy. And if we can talk further specifically, I can really get down to make sense. Because you see, for me to come to ecology and to try to talk about my struggle as a student, my struggle as a teacher is difficult because I do not fit. But if you were to think that if this voice of the subaltern trying to make sense, I would like to connect with that. And that to me is interdisciplinarity, to have the voice and to struggle and to see if I can sort of set it up in some little ways. So if there's one book that makes a lot of sense to me, is the book called Pedagogy of the Oppressed. Why is that as students we keep on witnessing a lot before we find our voice? ये सवाल मेरे साथ भी था, so I would want you to also think through. So that is one. And sometimes this, it is nice to know why these two have come as an integration within for your teacher. And your teacher will have a long journey to say, and that may be really interesting than many of the field studies that you have seen out there, been there, seen that, done that. Your teacher will have something very different to say as to why he or she is setting it up. Please understand, teachers are under the continuous assault of so-called API, academic progression and all that. So they are struggling to meet all that. But you can understand that a person who is staying through is very clear. He may not have too many feathers in his cap, but yeah. So just that. Thanks for hearing.